Erwin Rommel is a captivating figure in the history of World War II. He was well respected by the men who fought for him, as well as the men who fought against him. Field Marshal Montgomery even went so far as to keep a picture of Rommel in his headquarters during the North Africa campaign to remind him what he was up against. And it's the North Africa campaign that most people associate Rommel with. It's definitely where he made the most headlines. But he really started making a name for himself as a cavalry officer during the Battle of France that took place in the summer of 1940, right after the Phoney War, up to the point where they pushed the British Expeditionary Force and the French armies right there to the beaches of Dunkirk and beyond. And that's the campaign that we're going to take a look at. It's the first of three campaigns that come with Field Commander Rommel. It's not easy, but none of them are. But it definitely has a flow to it that you could figure out tactically after trying a few different things. It's not a puzzle to be solved because it's going to be different every time due to the mechanics and the way that the Allied forces operate. So let's go ahead and take a look. So it's May of 1940, and that means that the Phoney War is over. I'm playing the Ghost Division campaign, and my objective is to capture Cambrai, Arras, and Cherbourg, and I have 7 turns to do it in. Each turn represents roughly a week. Now the first thing you do at the beginning of your turn is advance the turn marker. And then the next step would be to do your refit segment. Now this is the first turn, so I don't have to do the refit. We'll look at it in a future turn. And then I'm going to do my battle moves. Now the difference between a battle move and a normal move, or a non-battle move, is when you're moving into an area, say into Dinant here, that has enemy forces in it, that's a battle move. A non-battle move would be if I wanted to move to Luxembourg, where nobody is there to contest me. And then after you do your battle moves, you'll actually resolve your battles. And so we're going to start off right now with a battle move. We're going to move the 25th Panzer, the 6th Schutzen, and the 78th Artillery into Dinant, where we will do battle with the 4th and the 5th Dem French units there. Now, when we go into the battle step, the first thing to do is the battle plans. We determine what battle plans each side is using. And battle plans, they enhance. They'll either enhance your ability, they'll give you additional shots, they could get you a reroll or up your defense. Now, for the Allies, we determine their battle plans randomly. And the ward tells us right here how many battle plans each side gets. Now, the Allies are going to draw one random battle plan for each full-strength unit. And they have 2, so we have a cup that has their battle plans in it that we're going to draw from. They're going to get Disrupt and anti-tank guns. Now, what Disrupt does is it's going to potentially take away from my supply availability. I have 3 supplies, and we'll get into why I need supplies and how I get them later. Then they have anti-tank guns, and that's going to give them an additional chance to hit me, cause hits to me. Now the Axis gets battle plan points. We get to pick our battle plans, and we spend a certain amount of points for them. And according to this, I'm going to get 2 battle plan points for each full-strength German unit. I have 3, so that's 6 points. I can spend a supply point to get an additional battle plan point. Now the Allies, it specifies here, depending on how many supplies they have, they may spend their supplies to get additional plans. In this case, they don't. They have 4 supply right now, so they won't get any additional battle plans. And I'm going to get 6 points to spend. Now I'm going to take Press for 1 point. And what Press does is it lets you extend the combat by another turn. Typically, you're only going to do 1 turn of combat. And if you don't eliminate the enemy units in the region you attack, you get pushed back to the region that you attacked from, or the area that you attacked from. So I'm going to take Press, which will give me 1 more round of combat. I'm going to take Tactics, which is also 1 point. That gives me a reroll. Gives me 1 reroll. I want to take Exploit, because Exploit lets me, if I eliminate the enemy units there, I get to make another battle move. I get to advance, essentially. It may not be a battle move depending on where I go. So I have spent 4 of my points. I have 2 left. And with those 2, I'm going to take an air raid. That lets me roll a die and do an additional hit, potentially. So the first thing I'm going to do is, now we're going to resolve our battle plans, things that affect the battle before it happens, or really don't affect the battle at all. Like the disrupt here for the allies. So I'm going to roll a die. On a 1 to 3, I lose 2 supplies. A 4 to 5, I lose 1. On a 6, I don't lose any. I'm hoping for a 6, obviously. But I got a 2, which is worst case scenario. So my 3 supplies becomes 1. That's going to be problematic in the future. So I can go ahead and get rid of that disrupt because they've used it. And then we're going to go ahead and do our battle. Now when you're fighting, the unit tokens there have 3 values on them. They have their attack strength as the first value, and then they have their defense strength, and then they have their movement rating. Now that movement rating would be important if I wanted to move more than one area. The 25th Panzer here, they can move 3 areas, but for each area beyond the first, I have to play supply cost to do it. So that's one of the places where supply becomes an issue. We only moved 1, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to use that attack value because I'm the attacker in this battle. Now when the allies strike back, they're going to use that second value, the defense value, because they're the defenders. So I'll go ahead and roll for the Axis first. I'll have the 78th Artillery attack. They got a 5, and they needed a 3 or less, so they didn't do anything unless I use that tactics counter, which I'm going to. A 6 is still no better. So that's a miss for them. The 25th Panzer, now you look at their counter, they actually have 2 values. They've got the 5 and that superscript 2 there. What that superscript means that if I roll 2 or less, I do 2 hits, not just 1. So I'm going to attack for the 25th Panzer. They got a 3, so that's 1 hit that they've done. And then the 6th Schutzen gets to do their attack. They need a 2 or less. They didn't do a hit. Now I also have my air raid. On a 1 to 3, I do an additional hit. I got a 2, so I've done 2 hits to the allies. Now before we affect the allies, they get to attack back. The combat is simultaneous. So the 4th there, their defense value is a 2, so they need a 2 or less. They got a 2, so they'll do 1 hit. And then the 5th Dem there has a 3 or less, so they're going to attack. And they got a 4, so that's a miss. I've done 2 hits to their 1 hit, but the allies also have an anti-tank gun. And so that's an attack they get to make. On a 1 to 2, they do 1 hit. And of course, they do a hit. So the allies have done 2 hits to me, and I've done 2 hits to them. Now, I get to pick where I take my hits from. The allies, the rules are pretty simple. If they're the defenders, well, first, I have to reduce units before I remove units. And you reduce a unit by flipping it from its full strength side to its reduced strength side. Now I have 2 hits, and the ones that how I determine who takes the hits first is by their defense value if they're the defenders. I'll turn over the one with the lower defense value, which is the 4th. Now I have 1 more hit to distribute. And because there's a full strength unit, I can't put that hit on a reduced strength unit. So now I'm going to reduce the 5th. Now I have 2 hits that I have to take. Now I could go ahead and remove the 5th or the 6th Schutzen and get them back later. Or I can reduce one of those other units. And I actually think what I'm going to do is go ahead and fully reduce the 6th Schutzen and put them out of play for a little while. I will have the opportunity to purchase them back. But for now, they can be out of the fight. Now, typically, this battle would be over, and my units we push back to the area they were in. Except I took the press battle plan, which means we're going to do another round of combat. So I'm going to go ahead and make my air raid attack again. That's a 6, that'll miss. And then the 78th will attack. And they're going to miss. That reroll is good for 1 die roll. And then I have the 25th. Now, they could roll a 2, and if they do, then I'll still do 2 hits. And they did roll a 2. So I did 2 hits to the allies, but they get to attack back first. They have, the 4th has a defense value of 1 now in their reduced state. They miss. And the 5th Dem has a reduced defense value of 2. And that's a 4. So they'll miss. But they still have their anti-tank gun, which also misses. So they've done no hits this turn, and I've done 2. So I've eliminated both units. Now I'm going to take those units and place them up here in the destroyed Allied Forces box of the Axis resupply section of the board here. And we'll see what that's for here in a minute. So I have eliminated those units, and so I get to upgrade my units now. So for each enemy unit that's eliminated, I can upgrade a unit that participated in the battle. Now there's a cup of upgrades that are available, and they can upgrade to veteran. And then if they already have a veteran upgrade, they can upgrade to elite. So we'll draw for the 25th. Their veteran upgrade is going to increase their attack and defense value by 1. You can see that there. So we'll cover that up so it's not in the way. And then the 78th Artillery is going to upgrade their defense value by 2. That's their veteran upgrade. The elite upgrades are on the other side of the token, so when they upgrade again, we'll just flip that over, and that'll be what they get. Alright, so the press let us have another round of combat. The air raid gave us additional attacks. Now I have the exploit. I can exploit, or I can advance now if all the enemy units are destroyed. So I'm going to advance. I'm going to advance here into Reims. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't speak French, and I don't speak German. So I can't be 100%. Now, because I advanced into an area that has enemy units, we're going to have another battle. This is my blitzkrieg going on here. Hopefully it'll work out. Now the 3rd is there, and that is 1 full allied unit. So they're going to get to draw 1 battle plan. Oh, I should put the anti-tank guns back in there before I draw for them. I could have cheated them. They're going to take the dig in battle plan, and that is going to absorb a hit. And I have 2 full strength units, so I get 4 points. Well, due to their dig in, I am going to take press again, so I can extend the combat for 1 point. That leaves me 3. And then I'm going to take the overrun battle plan for 3 points. And what that does is gives me +1 assault and +1 defense, or +1 attack. So as we get ready to begin the battle, I'm going to look at my unit upgrades. The 25th Panzer is +1 attack. Now it actually even includes the superscript here. So the 0 there for the superscript means that value doesn't go up. But the 25th is going to hit on a 6 or less. So we're going to do 1 hit. But let's roll it anyway so we can get that 2. We didn't. So we've done 1 hit to them. And then the 78th will attack, and their veteran upgrade gives them a defense value increase, but it does not increase their attack. So they need a 3 or less. They got a 2, and we knocked the 4th RTR right out of Eris. So they're going to do an additional hit. So I've done 2 hits, and the 3rd gets to attack back now. Their defense value is 2, so they need a 2 or less to hit. The 5 won't do it. However, as I allocate hits, the 2 hits that I did, the first one is going to be absorbed by this dig-in counter. So that's only going to reduce the 3rd, which is why I took the press. So we're going to repeat that process, and I'm also +1 attack. The 78 will actually hit on a 4, or a 5 rather. So let's go ahead and roll for them. If I missed that, that's my fault. No, they'll hit on a 4. That's right, because they don't have an increase to their attack value, except from the overrun. So a 4 will do a hit, and then the 25th will go ahead and attack. I know I didn't roll for it last time, but I want to this time. So that's 2 hits that we've done to the 3rd, and then the 3rd needs a 2 to damage us back. They don't. So we managed to roll right into Ream there. Now the 3rd is going to go over here with the destroyed Allied forces, like before, and that will end the combat. Now, because I eliminated a unit, I get to upgrade one of my units from veteran to elite. And I'm going to upgrade the 25th Panzer. So now they are +1 on their superscript, and their defense is +2 as well. That's good, because they may need it here coming up. So that will end my battle moves. And now I can do my non-battle moves. I could move the 7th into Dinant there if I wanted to. But I think I'm going to hold off this turn. And you'll see why when I do my supply check, which is actually the next step, is my supply check. Now when I do that, the first thing I have to do is look to see where my forces are. Now each region, you can see these heavier brown lines define the region. There are 2 here that I have to worry about. Has a small truck with a number on it. In this case, it's a 2. That's how many units of mine I can have in that region before I have to start spending supply points for them. So if I had a 3rd unit here, it would cost me 1 supply point. And if I couldn't pay that supply point, I'd have to reduce a unit from full strength to reduced, or from reduced to eliminated, due to lack of food, ammunition, their battle effectiveness is affected. Now after I've done my supply check, I get to go to the Axis resupply step. And that's where these destroyed units come into effect. For each allied force that was destroyed, I get 1 resupply point. And there are 3 here. So I get 3 resupply points, and they go to the reinforcement cup. So they could come back. They will come back. And then for each allied objective held I would get to, I don't hold any. And then for each unit that didn't move, I get 2. So I have a total of 5 resupply points. Now I can pay 1 point to get 2 supplies, or I can pay those points to buy new units. And you pay their attack value in points. And I only get so many units that I can buy from. I have 2 more Panzer units, and then I have the Totenkopf, a Stormtrooper unit that I can buy. It would take all resupply points to purchase a Panzer unit. And because I got disrupted by the Allies that turn, I don't think I want to do that. I can get 2 supplies for 1 point. So I'm going to pay 2 points to get 4 supplies. And that'll give me a total of 5 supplies. That should hold on for a while. And that leaves me 3 points. And so for those 3 points, I'm going to get the Totenkopf. And I can put them here from Liege. Or if I held Lille or Paris, I could bring them in from there. I don't, so I can't. And that's going to end the Axis turn. I want to go into the Allied turn. Now the first thing they do is refit. They don't have any reduced units. Let's get rid of that overrun. So they're not going to refit anybody. And then we're going to do an operation check. Now there's another cup that has operation tokens in it that we're going to draw from that will determine what the Allies do, or what they might plan to do. So we'll draw from there. We'll look at that counter. That was the upgrades. I don't want to draw an upgrade. We'll look at the counter that they get, and they get 1 advance. So this is something that they're going to do when they draw their go counter, which you'll see in a future turn. So they get 1 advance. We're going to set that aside in the Allied Operations area. And then we're going to do the Allied Order step. Now for each region, it tells me what to do. For Allied forces in an objective, that's Cambrai and Arras, if there are 1 or 2 Allied forces in that objective, they hold. So they're going to hold here. If there are 3 or more Allied forces in an objective, then 1 force with the highest attack value advances. And advances means they move toward the enemy units. In this case, these are all Brits here in Cambrai. So the 1st Tennesside and the 10th and 11th Durham, 1 of those units is going to advance into Reims. And it doesn't really matter which one. So let's just say the 11th Durham, since they're closest, will advance into Reims. Now that's going to count as a battle move, and we'll get to that in a minute, because for each region, which is the separated by the brown lines, we're going to roll on this chart here to see what they do. So over in this region here, we're going to roll a die. It's going to be modified. It's going to be +1 per allied force in the region. and that's 2. So we'll roll the die here to see what they do. That's a 3, which means they would move toward Paris. Except only units in this region are in objectives, and they've already received a hold order, so they won't do anything. Now in this region here, there are 3 allied units, but they've all received orders already. But it would be +3, and it'd be -2 for my 2 Axis units. So that leaves Brussels and the Chaucers up there. I'm going to roll for them. There are 2 Axis units in the region and 1 allied unit. So I'm going to subtract 1 from the die roll to see what they do. That's a 4, so it becomes a 3. So they're going to move toward Paris, and they're going to take the shortest route. Paris is down here, so they're going to move here into Cambrai. So that is going to be the end of their order step, and now we're going to resolve battles. The 11th Durham is attacking my Axis forces here. This turn, they're the attackers, so they're going to use their attack value against me. First thing they need, though, is a battle plan. So the Allies get 1 battle plan for each full-strength unit. So the 11th Durham, oh, they're going to disrupt. I hate that token. Gets a disrupt battle plan, and then my units are both full strength, and I get 2 supply or 2 battle plan points for each full strength unit. So I am going to take Intel for 2 points, because Intel lets me remove 1 random enemy plan. They only have 1, and I don't want to be disrupted again. I need my supplies. And then I'm going to go ahead and take Exploit for 2, which lets me advance if all the enemy units are destroyed. Now I could take Press, but I'm not going to worry about that because they're attacking me. So if they fail, they get pushed back to Cambrai. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Intel battle plan to get rid of their Disrupt battle plan. That's my least favorite battle plan, by the way, Danverson. And then I'll go ahead and do the attacks. Now the 11th Durham has a 2 attack value, so I'll roll for them. They get a 5. They don't do any hits. Now this time, I'm using my defense values when I attack back, but I'm +2 on my defense because the 25th Panzer is now elite. So I'm going to roll. I need a 5 or less to do a hit. I get a 5, so that'll do 1 hit. And then the 78th Artillery has a defense value of 4, thanks to their veteran status. So they need a 4 or less. They got a 5, so that will not eliminate the 11th Durham. There's only 1 hit to apply. It goes to their sole unit. And because they didn't win this engagement, they go back to Cambrai. They weren't eliminated, so nobody is going to be upgraded. And we don't get to advance from the exploit because they weren't destroyed. So that's all the battles. And they're going to go into their resupply step. And they've got instructions here for that as well. So during the Allied resupply, I'm going to roll once for Caen. I'm going to roll for Calais. See, I just don't know. And once for Paris. And this will tell me what to do. So let's go ahead and roll for Caen, or Cairn, or I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Feel free to correct me. I get a 3. And according to this, that means they're going to add 1 force to the region. So I am going to draw from their cup here, their reinforcement cup, and knock my board over a little bit. And they're going to get the 1st Armored Division. It's going to go to Caen. The next region is Calais. I think it's Calais. They also are going to get 1 force. Calais? Maybe it's Calais. I need to go back and watch The Longest Day. That'll tell me how to pronounce all that stuff. The 50th goes to Calais. I think it's Calais. And then we're going to roll for Paris. They get a 1, which is 4 or less. So they're going to get a unit there. So I'm not going to be able to just roll into Paris. And the 3rd is in Paris. And that's going to end the turn. It's pretty simple. And it's got a good flow to it, so it's easy to... The mechanics of the game are easy. The strategy of the game is where it's going to get me. Again, I've got to get to Cherbourg while holding Cambrai and Arras or Arras. And I only have 7 turns to do it in. I've just used one, first of the turn. I advance the counter, week of May 20th to the 27th, 1940. So this will be my refit step. I'm not going to refit. I don't have to. So now I get to do my battle moves. Now, I can move the 25th and the 78th into Paris, which I'm going to do. That's one battle move. And then I could move the Totenkopf and the 7th Schützen if I wanted to. They're not going to do me a whole lot of good back there. So I'm going to move the 7th Schützen. No, that wouldn't be a battle move. I'm thinking about moving them right into Dinant. But that wouldn't be a battle move, so I'm going to wait. Let's do that, and hopefully you'll see my brilliant plan here in a minute. I think that's it for my battle moves. So let's go ahead and resolve Paris. And now we're going to go into the Allies' turn. And I got to remember to not leave these guys here. I've gotten my supply points for them. So the first things the Allies do, just like me, they're going to refit. And to refit, they spend 2 supplies for each reduced unit to return them to full strength. So their supplies are reduced from 4 to 2. Don't worry, there'll be plenty of opportunity for them to get supplies back. Sometimes it steamrolls, and they're just rich. And then they start buying more battle plans, and it goes south. But that's neither here nor there. So now it's an Allied operation check. We're going to go back to that operations cup and draw for them. And I drew the go counter. So now this is when the Allies are going to implement their grand plan. So this isn't too bad a time for the go counter to come up from the operation cup. And what that means is the Allies are going to implement their plan. And what their plan is to bring in the forces over here in the operations forces section. You'll start with whatever the board tells you to. And then there are go counters, or they're not go counters, but operation counters that add more forces there. I'm kind of relieved there's only one here. So there is a chart here that says where to place them. You roll on it, and it tells you where to put those troops. You're going to roll for each one. We only have the 5th there. So we'll roll for them, and that says to put them in Calais. So over here in Calais, they'll join. And then it says to have them advance. It doesn't say that here, but in the previous turn, I drew an advance token, which means each operational force is going to perform however many advances I pulled. I pulled 1. And so they're going to advance 1 toward the nearest enemy unit. And the nearest enemy unit is the 25th and the 78th over here in Rhône or Rhône or something like that. And they're going to move there. And if that happens, then a battle occurs. So that was the operations phase. Now, it could be a lot worse. There are operations tokens that add additional forces from the Reinforced Cup to the Allied operations forces. And there are multiple advances. They could have 3 advances, which means they would just move across the board to get to you if they could. And when they do that, they don't spend supply points for additional move. And so that was a good time. That's the earliest I've ever drawn the go counter, I think. And that could have gone a lot worse. I've been totally wiped out by that go counter numerous times, to the point where there's no way to recover before the turn's over. So there you have it. I don't want to spoil anything, but you can probably tell from the smile on my face that the results were in my favor for this game. I've played the Ghost Division campaign numerous times and had it turn around on me numerous times as well. One time it even went so far as to not draw the go counter until every other operation counter had been drawn from the cup, and the Allies launched an offensive that wiped me off the map. The other 2 campaigns that come with the game, North Africa and Normandy, are just as much fun, and they're just as engaging. all off of their different challenges. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to let me know. You can leave them in the comment section down below, or you can send me an email at majortomsolo@gmail.com, and I will go and answer it. We'll see you next time.